Hello, everybody, and welcome to another rendition of Walk It Off, Talk It Off. I'm your host, Randy Grankowski here. Uh, we are going to be continuing on our second episode of our new series, which is our power ranking series, or our roster review, as we're calling it. We recently reviewed the Colorado Rockies, were our number 30th ranked team in the MLB this year. So we'll take you on to our number 29th ranked team this year, which averaged out between Alex and I is the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim, your Halos. Um, the Halos last year won 72 games. They were almost 20 games below 500. Um, Kind of just a team that pieced together a lot of their pitching. You know, some guys had down years. I know like Logan O'Hoppe had a down year last year. Um, but they're looking for a bounce back. AL West, which is the Mariners are, they posed to be a really strong team this year again. Made a pretty deep run last year, made it to the ALCS, um, and unfortunately just ran into a red hot Blue Jays team. Um, we'll look at some of the parts out here. So if you look at the screen, we have Luis Garcia, reliever. He went to the Mets. Yohan Moncada's back, 1 year, $4 million deal. Kenley Jansen's gone. He locked down the back end of their bullpen last year. They moved on from Andrew Chafin or Chafin, Tim Anderson, Tyler Anderson, lefty pitcher who was there for a while, guy that gave them a lot of innings. Hunter Strickland, Luis Rengifo, he's a guy that slid all over the diamond, hit a little bit for them. Connor Brogdon's gone. He was another reliable bullpen arm last year. So Chris Taylor, the vet, he is back. They just signed him to a minor league career. Um, Kevin Newman is gone. Lamont Wade is gone. Lamont Wade came over from the Giants. Um, and he contact bat. Some guys that they brought in, Heimer Candelario on a minor league deal. Um, So some guys that they brought in, they signed Jamer Candelario to a minor league deal. They brought in, like I said, they needed to bolster their pitching up, so they brought in guys like Kirby Yates. They brought in Alek Manoah. Kind of a project signing there. See what he can be. The last couple of years in Toronto were kind of seen as failed years, but this is a guy who had tremendous upside, came in as a rookie, looked really good, and kind of just ran into, some injury stuff. Kind of just lost his feel for the game a little bit. Some like you could call it yips, I guess. They brought Jordan Romano over from the Phillies. Drew Pomeranz, who, the guy's been around forever, but he's still throwing really, really good innings from the left side. And then they acquired outfielder Josh Lowe, who's been with the Rays, left-handed bat, corner outfielder, provides a little bit of pop in the lineup. And they brought in Grayson Rodriguez as well in the Taylor Ward deal. Taylor Ward, kind of a big loss here. He's a guy that had almost 40 bombs on the year last year. Kind of a staple in the middle of their lineup there. So he's gone, but they bring in Grayson Rodriguez, who's promising pitching prospect years ago. Came up with the Orioles. Pitched in playoff games with the O's. He's a guy who his fastball is highly regarded as one of the most lively in the MLB. He is coming off of some injury history, so see what you could get out of him, but he's still fairly young. Um, and They also had a share of extensions this year, so a couple of guys that I'm actually going to go into detail in a little bit. So they extended Joe Adell, Brock Burke, Jose Soriano, Zach Neto, and Logan O'Hoppe. So it's clear that they want to build around some of these younger guys. Zach Neto and Joe Adell are, two guys in their lineup that really stick out. Joe Adell kind of had his breakout last year. He was a top prospect coming into the league. So had his breakout. Was really awesome to see the numbers he put up, which I'll go ahead and share his stat cast with you here. I mean, all you can see is red. Hard hit percentage was 80 percentile, bat speed 99th percentile, barrel rate 96th percentile, exit velo 86th percentile, slugging 97th percentile, batting average 68th, and his ex-WOBA was 90th percentile. Um, he does kind of chase and swing and miss a bit, and his walk rate's a tad low, but he's a guy who he showed a lot last year. 37 bombs on the year, and he's still fairly young. He's 26 years old, so this is a guy that I think they're really looking to build around. Um, Take you real quick through their lineup. So, a couple guys, their lineup really didn't change all that much. They're 1 through 9 here. So Zach Neto, sturdy as can be at the top. He's gonna be man shortstop for them. Noah Shanuel is gonna be their first baseman. He's been there for a couple years now. Ever great Mike Trout. Can he show us, as he's getting up there in age, entering his 35 season? Can he show us maybe a little bit of vintage Trout here? I'm personally kind of stinks that you are not seeing him on the Team USA WBC team due to insurance stuff that's going on. But really excited to see what Trout can do, man. If he could stay healthy this year, he's gonna go down as one of the best to ever play the game. But just a shame that his last couple of years have been so injury riddled. But we'll see what they could get for him. He's slotted to become their full-time DH now. As kind of an effort to preserve some of his some of the longevity and avoid some of the injury there. So we'll keep moving along. We got Yohan Moncada is back. They signed him. He's switch hitting third baseman. Um, gives you a little bit of pop. He could hit from both sides. He could play a solid third base. He's in the middle of their lineup. Joe Adell, who we just mentioned, is going to be their five hitter and center. I don't know if you want him to stick around in center. I think he kind of portrays more as a corner outfielder moving forward. But for now, that's their best option in center because of how good his bat is. And then right behind him, Josh Lowe is going to be in right. Jorge Soler, they have playing the outfield. Um, I wouldn't mind seeing maybe Trout get his legs under him a little bit, and maybe they put him out in the outfield and they could rotate him and Soler. Soler is kind of a somewhat of a liability out in the outfield, but he's got a lot of pop in that bat. So you obviously want him in the lineup every day. If you have to put him out in the outfield, he's not. I wouldn't say he's like so much of a net negative, but um, his bat definitely makes up for his power and his potential. His pop and his bat definitely make up for his outfield. Logan O'Hoppe is batting eighth. He's looking to bounce back from last year. Um, I didn't realize how bad his numbers were last year, but he's a guy. He's was a top prospect in their organization. He provides a lot for you behind the dish, and it would be great to get his bat rolling again. And then the rookie from last year, Christian Moore. What can he do in a full season here at second base? He's going to get everyday reps. He's a guy that kind of rose through their system pretty quick. And I think there's a lot in the tank for Christian Moore. I think he's a guy that now that he's going to get his full opportunity, he was an eighth overall draft pick that he's going to show out for them, man. And I could see him moving out of that nine hole pretty quick. Um, so that takes you through the 1 through 9 projected by Fangraphs roster resource tool. Off the bench, you have the very seasoned vet Travis d'Arnaud, whose bat kind of took a step back last year. Um, See if he can get things going again. Vaughn Grisham, they brought over. He's a guy who's dealt with some health issues, but another touted prospect that came from Atlanta, and when he came up to the show, he showed that he could play in the big leagues, and I still think he can. So he's a platoon guy. He can he could go all over the all over the infield essentially. Um, Same thing with Oswald Peraza. Came over from the Yankees last year. Um, the bat didn't really play, but he's gonna give you really solid defense at third, short, second, and I think they even plugged him in at first base last year, and it was kind of a pretty bad experiment. So, he does. I think left side of the infield is ideal for him. And then rounding out the bench is Bryce Teodosio. Guy's a stud in the outfield. He covers a boatload of ground out there. Um, Definitely a guy that can man center field up there with almost anybody in the league. See if his bat can play. He's obviously fairly young. I believe he made his debut last year. Um, so this lineup to me, it is balanced. I love Neto at the top. I'll take you through some of Neto's stats too. So these are some of Neto's metrics. If you could see above me, he is basically well above average in almost every category. Um, Offensively, he's same thing. Exit velo is above average. Barrel rate 87%. I mean, he's in my opinion, he's a stud. He's one of the most underrated players, one of the most underrated shortstops in the league. And at such a valuable position, he brings you so much, man. This is a guy who he slugged 474 last year, 320 on base, almost an 8 OPS. Uh, he his sprint speed is 70th percentile. So this is a guy that really he's a five-tool ball player. Take through some of his metrics here. His 2025 his hard hit rate last year 70%. His K percentage 12%. Um, doesn't strike out all that much. Whiff rate 22%, chase rate 35%. He can run the bases. He could play a pretty good shortstop. He just hits, man. He hits and he hits and he hits. This is kind of a guy that if the Angels are on the same trajectory as last year, you could kind of see him maybe getting some looks at the trade deadline. So, um, I mean, he's a stud. He's gonna really provide a lot at the top of their lineup, I think. Um, so I'm really looking out for him. I'm looking out for Trout to have his bounce back. I'm looking for Adele to repeat what he can do. And this lineup can score runs. If everything is clicking, this lineup definitely can score runs. What can Shawnuel be? Shawnuel came up, I believe he made it to the bigs in the same season he was drafted, which I mean is so rare, but he's just a guy that really doesn't strike out a lot. Um, he, he's last year he's only a 1.7 WAR player. You'd like to see that maybe get up into the two range. Um, but at the beginning of the lineup, he provides you a good contact bat that really doesn't chase much. So set the table for these guys, set the table for Trout, Adele, Moncada, Soler, guys that could drive runs in. Let's move forward to this projected starting rotation. So to me, this this looks to me to be a rotation that they don't know what they're going to get from some of these guys. A lot of question marks. Obviously Kikuchi as your one is a guy that he's just gonna provide you super stable innings. He's, last year was or projections for this year, I'm sorry, are 4 ERA. He should have a 9.2 K through 9. He's a guy, he could rack up some strikeouts. He doesn't walk that many guys, and he just eats innings. I mean, he's gonna give you probably close to 200 innings if he stays healthy. Um, Following him as a guy, a Rule 5 guy that they got returned to them back in 2021, I believe, Jose Soriano, and he's a guy too that I think is just extremely underrated. And he's just a guy that really hasn't gotten the love I think that he deserves. Um, Let me take you through some of his metrics. So fastball velo, his fastball velo is 72nd percentile. He averages out at 95.7. Um, and you could just see the like the usage here. So he's a pretty heavy mix of changeup slider. But he'll mix in the four seam and the sinker as well. He misses barrels a lot. He uh he racks up his fair share of strikeouts, and he's a guy too that I think they should really, really try to build their rotation around. Um Take you through his metrics a little bit here, but last year I mean you can see here the fastball velo plays a lot. Horizontal break. I mean, all this red is just it's exactly what you want. Um, he's a guy too that, we'll see what they can get from him, man. If he could even take it up a step, he's a guy that could really, really, provide you some really good clean innings. 8.38 K through 9. And just a guy, that he he's gonna keep you in ball games. And following him is actually my guy. I'm glad they brought back. I actually rep in Louisville today as Friday the 13th here. There is opening day for college baseball. But Reed Detmer is a guy that came out of Louisville. Um, has a ton of potential, still fairly young. He's 26 years old. Um, he's, from the left side, he's a smart pitcher. He's not really gonna strike out, maybe get you like a 10 strikeout performance, but he's a guy who's going to keep you in the ball game for sure. Keep it close. He's, just a smart, efficient pitcher. Projections here, they project him to a 4.08 ERA, 24 games started, 145 innings, K rate around 9, walk rate around 3. Just kind of matches up to, close to what they're expecting from Suriano too. And then following him is Grayson Rodriguez, who like I talked about is, a guy who's coming off injury, guy who has all the potential in the world, only 26 years old. Fastball is fast. The off-speed stuff plays. It's a guy that's made playoff starts before. So, obviously losing a guy like Taylor Ward, you hope that the return for him can be something special. And I'm really excited to watch Grayson Rodriguez pitch in 2026. I definitely think this is a guy who's going to be exciting, who can, you know, kind of elevate this pitching staff a little bit. And then followed by, probably the biggest project guy maybe in the MLB right now, Alek Manoah, who came in. I mean, this guy was getting Cy Young votes, early on in his career. So see what he could be. Can he have his bounce back? He's kind of a fairly big ego guy. He's got, a very loud personality. So let's see, if he could have these boys in Anaheim having some fun. Excited to see what this rotation can be, man. On paper, does it look super pretty? No, but if you can get some A plus innings from Rodriguez, if you could get somewhat of a revamped career from Manoah, if Detmers and Soriano and Kikuchi could give you innings and just keep you in ball games, this is a team that could definitely battle, for a wild card spot out of nowhere. So, um, excited to see what they could bring. Well, before we get out of here, we'll take a quick look at their bullpen. So you got Robert Stevenson, who they acquired a couple years back, is slated to close ball games. They actually have him sharing that closer role between Drew Pomeranz and Kirby Yates, which they're all guys that have closed games before, have pitched very high leverage innings. I said Pomeranz has been around forever. Kirby Yates has been around forever. Those guys are both 38, 39. So you add a little bit of veteran depth. Jordan Romano, a guy who kind of got hit around in Philly last year. Ryan Zephyrhan, Brent Suter, another guy who's been around for a long time, Jose Fermin, and Silseth. So you got a couple guys in the bullpen now. They kind of revamped the bullpen a little bit. You got a couple guys that have given you some high leverage innings. I'm excited to see maybe these starters start giving you 6 innings, 6, 7 innings, and 6, 7, and we'll see if some of these guys could lock it down on the back end, man. So I know the Mariners had a really, really good year, but this AL West between them, the Astros, Rangers got a little bit better this year. I think this AL West is a little bit open. So, we'll see where these Angels of Anaheim end up at the end of the year. I hope I'm eating my words and they're not the 29th ranked team. But right now, based off, what they showed last year, kind of the lack of pitching, um, it's hard to rank them above 29. So, and then, um, eventually, what do they do with Anthony Rendon? That contract, we talked about Chris Bryant's contract being one of the worst ever. Um, is Anthony Rendon's contract the worst ever? This is a guy who is just quoted saying that, baseball isn't that important to him. He wins a World Series, comes over from Washington, and, has not played all that many games. Um, just a guy you hate to see it, a guy who had, the first half of his career was just such a great uh a great third baseman, just like a leader in the clubhouse, World Series winner. So, what do you do with him? Get him back this year. Um and see if he could provide anything to this lineup. Um he had surgery almost a year ago on his hip. And then also another guy that I want to highlight here is Ben Joyce, who, he did suffer a torn labrum last year in May of 2025. This is a guy who his fastball has hit triple digits consistently. Um, Really exciting arm. He's a guy that can also slot into the back end of that bullpen and just give them a little bit of firepower there. So I'm excited to see him come back and kind of just see what this Angels team can be, man. Could they battle it out in the West, or um, are we kind of going to see them lay down and collapse a little bit like they did last year? So, like I said, this team won 72 games last year. Right now, the DraftKings over under for them is at 70 and a half. I'm going to go ahead and take the over. I think the pitching got better. The lineup is pretty much the same. You did lose Taylor Ward's a big loss, but um, I definitely think that the addition to some of these bullpen arms is going to help them a lot. And then, um, if the experiment of Alek Manoah goes right, if the bounce back of Grayson Rodriguez goes right, um, Can Tyler Bremner, their, first round pick last year, climb the ladder? Or George Klassen, who two guys that they have, waiting in the ranks to, start getting some innings here. Um, what can they be? You know what I mean? So we'll see where they end right now. I do have them finishing last in the AL West. But I am taking them over 70 and a half wins. So listen, Angels fans, stay positive. Um, and hopefully Grayson Rodriguez is fun to watch, man. In this lineup bangs a little bit. Bring me a vintage Mike Trout, man. That's all I want to see. All right, guys. Well, thanks for tuning in. On to the next one. We will be talking about the 28th ranked team. Tune in to find out who it is. All right, guys.